Okay, welcome back. We're talking about the common law, and I already introduced you to one area of the common law, which is property and the idea of property rights and possession being a clear-cut or bright line rule to determine ownership of something that has not had a previous owner. Let's talk now about contracts, another major area of the common law, and like property, really indispensable in the business world. I mean, all business firms, small or large, have contracts, have contractual relationships with other parties, right? As soon as a business firm hires an employee, there's going to be an employment agreement. Maybe there's two friends who want to go into business together. It's going to be a partnership agreement. Supply agreements between business firms and the suppliers. Terms of use between online companies, websites, and platforms and their users, right? So I can't impress upon you enough how important contracts are. So I want to talk about Joe Exotic's reward offer, and I want to know, because what you really want to know is, okay, we make promises all the time, but and a lot of business transactions are conducted over a handshake, a so-called gentleman's agreement. So when is a promise, even a verbal one, legally enforceable? Well, and this is general, there's going to be exceptions where you need to have the agreement in writing, but here I want to focus on a general principle and the common law will answer that question. What I'll do is I'll summarize what's in the reading for this week, chapter 6, I believe I've assigned. A promise by itself is not going to be legally enforceable. The promise, the person who wants to enforce the promise made to him or her is going to have to establish four elements in order to make that promise legally enforceable or legally binding. And the four elements are, first of all, the agreement has to be for a lawful purpose. We'll talk about illegal agreements in one of my last videos of this unit because it's alleged that Joe Exotic had this illegal agreement with Alan Glover in order to assassinate Carol Baskin. Now, there's a lot of dispute about did they have that agreement, but assuming those facts to be true, and Joe Exotic was convicted by a jury of his peers, if those facts are true, right, that would be an illegal agreement. That would not be enforceable like Joe Exotic can't get his money back just because Alan Glover did not, eventually he decided not to go to Tampa, allegedly, and not to perform what he was asked to perform. Another requirement for a contract is there has to be contractual capacity. And there are a lot of special rules there, but the basic idea is, generally speaking, you have to be of sound mind and you have to be of the right age. So you have to be, legal minors, or special rules for legal minors. So you have to have contractual capacity. Thirdly, you have to have an offer and an acceptance. That is to say, there has to be mutual consent. The promise has to be made, and then that promise has to be accepted, and it has to be done mutually and consensually. Once you're talking about coercion or duress or even fraud and this tricking people into giving their consent, then you have a whole line of cases talking about those exceptions, right? Why there's no valid offer or acceptance, or why there's no valid mutual consent. And finally, one of the most interesting things that the common law requires is lawyers call this bargained for considerations, a common law concept. What is bargained for consideration? To put it just in plain English is you have to, for your promise to be legally binding, not just morally binding, but legally binding, you have to back that promise that you're making up. You have to back that promise up by giving something of value, or at least promising to give something of value. Now, the famous rule here that the common law has adopted is that courts will not entertain or go into the sufficiency or adequacy of consideration. Courts will only examine its existence. And what does that mean? In bottom line, it means, look, if Joe Exotic is going to offer $1 to you, if you have information leading to the arrest of Carol Baskin, that $1 is something of value. It may not be a lot of money, it may not be worth your time and trouble, but that's going to be considered bargained for consideration. As it happens, Joe Exotic was offering a $10,000 reward. Now, I'm not sure if that offer still stands because right now he's behind bars pending his appeals. But is that a legally binding contract? Think about it, right? You have a reward offer, so you just have one party making the offer. I will answer that question in the next video. Think about it, tell me what you think, how you would decide the question, and then I'll give you the general common law solution to these unilateral offers or unilateral contracts. Thank you.